Hey there, friends. What's going on? It's Kodiak here. Welcome back to Legacy Gaming. Genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you. All of the comments on the last unscripted video, super positive and honestly really helped build my confidence in a way that I want to put more of these types of videos out there. You can look at our channel and say, hey, you guys are pretty big. You guys must have all this down pat. And that's just not true. I think a lot of content creators, myself included, are cautious. We're also anxious. We're also a little bit self-conscious of the work that we put out there. So to hear and see so many positive words about, yeah, man, just speak about video games, speak from the heart. We will be here for it. We love having that conversation. And that's really at the heart of what I wanted to do, was have a conversation about games that we're covering and that we're playing. So we are back. And today I want to talk about the future. We have spent a lot of time either bringing you build guides or other types of guides focused on server issues, things like that. I want to look and leapfrog ahead to what's coming, because I think there's some really cool stuff coming. But to level set, I did want to start with what has been the focus up until this point. I think you guys kind of know what that is. Server capacity issues, gameplay issues, AFK players and the timeout that's now instantiated into the game, tons of matchmaking issues, rewards not paying out, interface bugs. I mean, we have been inundated with all of those problems since launch. And as I talked about in the last unscripted video, the entire community, for the most part, has been resilient to all of those things. We keep seeing more concurrent players. I think we saw our first real day-over-day dip recently, but you know what? That's to be expected now that people are playing the game, that new game hype is worn off. But I think there is a really solid foundation here. What I think is really fascinating is that no one has been talking about the future yet. And that makes sense. You have to focus on the things that are broken before you can move ahead to the future. But today, I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about where Helldivers 2 can go, because I think this game could go anywhere. And I think a lot of you would probably agree with me. So I did put together a list, no scripts, but bullets of 10 things I think would be really awesome for Helldivers to have. Some of these you're going to disagree with me on. That's okay. You can let me know in the comments. Some of these I think you will agree with me on and probably be able to expand further with your own ideas. So if at any point in time I see something that resonates with you, drop a comment. Let's keep this conversation going. I don't know if the Arrowhead Games team is looking at YouTube videos and comments, but I know that they have almost game masters that are controlling that global war aspect of the game. They're going to be looking at the community's feedback on all of the different systems. So with all that in mind, let's talk about the list. Number one for me is Mechs. We know this has already been teased. We know this is something that was so huge and prominent in Helldivers 1. It makes sense to have them as part of this game. It's a cheap number one because we already know they're coming. The team released a teaser trailer right before launch that showed them kind of being dropped down, a player jumping into them. You can't have Helldivers without Mechs. The real question here is the balance. I think Mechs were viewed largely as overpowered in Helldivers 1. So how are they going to balance that in Helldivers 2? I think it's going to have a super long cooldown. Maybe it requires 2 stratagem slots to call in a mech of any sort. I think there's going to be variety there. Flamethrower mech, Gatling mech, rocket mech, all the things that you would kind of expect from a mech looking at some of the other weapons and stratagems in the game. I cannot wait for Mechs because I think they are going to be a ton of fun. They're going to inject so much newness into the game, and hopefully that'll allow players to push a little bit further into the difficulty. Maybe if you're stuck on a 5 or a 6, bringing in a mech will bring you to a 6 or a 7. And that's cool too. We want to see everybody succeed when it comes to the difficulty of the game. Number 2 is vehicles. Now I know a mech is a vehicle, but I'm talking about other vehicles. And they have to be really careful here, right? Once you start injecting a lot of heavy machinery like this, you have to be careful with balance. The game is balanced around 4 players on the ground with different stratagems and different weapons, right? So once you start injecting vehicles into the mix, it becomes tricky. I think the team could probably do it. They would have to have some guardrails, right? So when I think of options, I think of ground, multiplayer, and aerial options. Let's just be clear. I don't think we're ever going to have fighter jets, Banshee-like aerial vehicles in this game, but it would be cool, and we could talk about that. What I think is more possible is ground options, something like speeders, tanks, and walkers. And not walkers in the sense of mechs, but walkers in like those ATST things that the automatons have. Something that provides a significant gameplay shift. Speeders, for example, I think this is the clearest example of something the team could do. A speeder is fast, it's fragile, but it allows the team to move quickly across the map. If you were going for a speed run, if you were going for level 10s and we're really focused on traveling light and quick, a speeder might be the way to do that. On the flip side, you could call in a tank, and yeah, it's going to be super slow and super vulnerable from a sense that it moves slowly in the world. It's susceptible to patrols and bot drops and things like that, but it's got heavy weaponry. Really, in the vehicle landscape of things, where I'm most interested is multiplayer options. I would love to be able to interface with my team more, and we're going to talk about that as another bullet point, but I cannot imagine a more fun way to play Helldivers than with somebody driving a vehicle, me on a turret blowing things up, or even like mortar emplacements or something like that. Maybe that's stationary, but more interactivity with the team. Again, we'll talk about that. So vehicles, I think, could be really cool. They have to be careful, but it could be really cool. All right, number 3 is new game modes. And I don't mean new game modes in the sense of I want completely wild and out there things. I just want to elevate and evolve what is currently offered in the game and create some different gameplay systems that would allow players of different tastes and styles to enjoy Helldivers the way that I think most of us do. What I'm saying here is just 3 options of things that could come to fruition, but you know, there are a million different ideas that are out there for game modes. So some of the things I was thinking about were team versus team, not PvP, but team versus team in the sense that who can complete the objectives and score the most points fastest and extract. Whatever team does that successfully first wins, they get more points. The losing team would obviously not walk away with anything because that's not very fun, but it's a healthy competitive thing, not necessarily a PvP trying to disrupt the other team. Maybe there's some ways to force disruption, a stratagem that could, you know, jam their stratagems, or something that you could call down that would obscure their vision, something like that. Another one I think would be really fun is big team tactical, 8-player squads instead of 4. Obviously, you'd expect things to be scaled to that, right? More enemies, bigger fortifications, things like that, but it could be really fun. So the last option is more of a classic horde style mode. This would be never ending, and you'd get more rewards every 5 minutes or so, and you would just be constantly dealing with an influx of new enemies. That is currently in the game, but it has a clear endpoint. In this sense, it wouldn't have an endpoint. You just keep pushing yourself as more enemies keep flooding in. Now, the caveat here is that I think the location should change. I think it should not be completely static like it is currently in the game. I want to be able to move to a different part of the map, change my defensive strategies, and force the team under pressure to adapt. I think that would be really fun. All right, moving on to number 4, I think enemy factions would be fantastic. I think this is a slam dunk. This is going to happen. There's no chance this isn't going to happen because Helldivers 1 had the Illuminate faction. That was a faction from the first game that was high tech, used energy shields, could teleport. I think there's a very realistic possibility we will see them. There are also some enemies from Helldivers 1 that are missing, like the Hounds and the Immolators from the Automaton side, and the Behemoth and the Hive Lords from the Terminid side. So, at a bare minimum, I think we are going to see enemies on existing factions expand, and ambitiously, I think we're going to see at least 1, if not 2 more full factions added to the game. Really excited about that. I think the team could do some really interesting things with other enemy factions, like a primal faction that uses bows and arrows and primitive weapons, but really strong tactics, whether it's flanking tactics, stealth tactics, swarming tactics. There's something there. I would also imagine a really cool idea would be Necrons. Necromancy meets metallurgy. You know, obviously that's a 40k thing, but think about how you could infuse that into the world of Helldivers too. You know, skeletons, ghouls, things like that with giant green plasma weapons. It could also be tied into the introduction of new weapons, right? I think that those things kind of align. And that gets right to our 5th bullet point, weapon diversity and balance. Right now, the offering is relatively thin. I think we all agree that there are more things the team could be doing. And of course, they probably have a whole handful of weapons ready to go. The issue is balancing right now. The meta is just too strong. Things like the railgun almost have to be taken. There needs to be more diversity, and there needs to be a very clear balance pass to make sure that the things are in line that need to be in line. Right now, casual players don't have access to a lot of the endgame weapons, which is not that much, but it does take a lot of grinding to get those things, and I think you're going to lose casual players. I'm not saying you need to throw everything at casual players and everybody all at once, because then that gets boring too, but you have to really look at it, look at how much time people are investing in this game, and then balance accordingly. When it comes to new things, I want to see them really step outside their comfort zone and make some cool new weapons. Anti-gravity, plasma, maybe there's an emphasis on melee at one point, and then possibly experimental weapons, enemy faction related weapons, pulling off automaton weapons from their arms, or maybe there's somehow we taking the terminid vial and poison and we turn that into weapons. There's some really cool stuff they could do outside of standard like sci-fi milsim stuff, which I hope they lean into. All right, number 6, this is where things get a little crazy, so bear with me. Gameplay features. Right now, there are some cool things with the game, but what else is out there? What else could the team do? One of the things that I thought of was a commander mode. This is something from, I don't even remember what Battlefield game, where you could be kind of this overarching commander looking at the battlefield and assisting your allies in various ways. I know it's nerdy, but I loved that. That was one of my favorite things to do with that game. So I would love that opportunity in Helldivers 2. Allow for a 5th Helldiver to assist the squad from the ship. You could disrupt enemies, you could aid allies, you could call down different stratagems only available to the commander, and then maybe issue orders with a little bit more clarity. And I don't know, maybe if your team listens to those orders within 30 seconds or something, the team gets a buff. There are so many things you could do there. If you flip that on its head, you could also do something like an enemy faction commander mode, where you're not directly trying to, and again, this is a little PvP, so bear with me. You're not necessarily going up against another group of Helldivers in a PvP setting, but you are controlling the enemy movements. You can call in breaches and bot drops, and you have the army to assist you with new enemy stratagems that you can then use to try and stop a team of Helldivers. It's a fun way to kind of combat like that PvP toxicity with something completely new and out there. And it's really 1v4. It's not necessarily 4v4 or like an arena PvP mode. It's completely different type of PvP. And I know that the team has already said they don't want it. But again, this is a wish list of cool things that could happen in, Dreamland. So I think that would be really fun. You could also have something like offline features. And again, hang with me here. I think there's a real opportunity to make the Helldivers 2 experience continue outside of the game. If one of the issues is not being able to get enough medals, super credits, and whatever during the game because you have to play 30 missions just to make a dent, well, create a system where you could send out Helldiver cadets and they could go out on, missions a la like a garrison feature. And then they could, while you're offline, complete missions and get some modest resources. Not only is that super casual friendly, that also really just helps push everybody forward a little bit faster, which could be an issue if they don't decide to balance the progression, if they feel the balance of the progression needs to be adjusted. If you want to take that really one step further, you create a companion mobile app to keep things moving 24/7. Obviously, that is a crazy ask, but could be fun. I also think they need to look at dailies and weeklies. I think they need to flesh these out to be more refined and more accessible to players. I get the global war thing, I totally do. Not everybody can play every day for 12 hours. That is just the reality of the current landscape of primarily 25 to 35-year-olds that play these types of games. I know that from just traction on our videos about this content. You have to make it accessible to them, and you have to make the barrier to entry low. So by doing things like dailies and weeklies, giving them healthy rewards for doing those things and making sure they have enough time to do them, you're going to see a lot more positivity around the game. All right, sliding to number 7. We need a testing area. We need a place to test all of our weapons and all of our stratagems. They already have it built in the tutorial zone. Just let us go back there. Let us have full access to everything. Unlocked, locked, doesn't matter. Let us have access to everything. And please give us some sort of metric system to accurately test the effectiveness of a build. If you're into build crafting, this is a necessity. It's something I think the team probably should have had at day one, but I totally understand why they don't, and I hope it's coming. Number 8 is customization. Armor dyes is something that I think is desperately needed in the game, especially because they have such an emphasis on cool, different armor sets, whether it's in the war bonds, the premium war bonds, or the superstore. There's a lot of armor, and we have no way to customize it. So when you have a matching helm and chest, it looks awesome, but when those are mismatched, you just don't even want to wear it because it looks so bad. So there's a lot they could do there. I also think they could do quite a bit with ship customization, making each of the ships feel a little different, because when you join an ally, it feels like the same ship every time. Yes, the naming thing on the side is really cool, but what else can we do? Can we change the bridge and command center? Can we create some different customization options for players there? Could we also do that on the outside of the ship? Can we make different classifications of ships and give players a little flexibility? I wouldn't want to take away too much time from the actual content, because the content of the game is why people play. but there's something there that I think speaks to a healthy swath of players that like that level of customization in their game. Number 9 is expanded squad tactics. I love everything about Helldivers 2. I want more interaction with my team, and I want more tactical elements in the game. I'm not saying it needs to be true milsim, I'm just saying I want a little bit more. A true cover system would be huge. You have to hide behind cover in this game. It is a reality. It would be nice to be able to have at least a little bit more refined of a system there where you can hide, you can peek, you can shoot over, because right now that is not a great system in the game. There's a lot of issues with, where your gun is pointed versus like where the bullet actually hits, especially when you're behind cover. I think there could also be bonuses for various squad tactics and formations. If you're sticking with your squad and you have some sort of defined formation system in the game, you get bonuses, whether it's reloading faster, more damage, faster stratagems, anything like that to enhance the squad elements of the game. I think that could be really cool. I also just want more interplay between my squad mates. We talked about how vehicles could definitely help here. I also think things like mortars and emplacements, things like that could have more interactivity. I also think things like assisted boosts onto higher elevations could be really fun. We do it already with the emotes. I can hug you, but I can't boost you onto a rock that's a little bit out of reach. I think more here is going to be better, and this is the quality of life stuff that happens in addition to some of the major content updates, right? This is not stuff that you do an entire update around. It's additional quality of life stuff that just continues to add value to the game and makes the experience better for players. Finally, number 10, this one's kind of wild, community content. Give players the keys to the castle and give them a Forge style system where we can create any sort of custom game and anything that we want in the Helldivers 2 universe. Let us change as many parameters as the engine and the devs will allow, and give players the opportunity to create a different kind of Helldivers 2 experience. When I think about the team, less than 100 people, I think that's going to beef up because of how successful the game has been. You have to imagine that players out there have a really good idea of some fun ideas that they could inject into the game themselves if given the tools. This, I think, is a no-brainer. I think we've seen it work successfully for games like Warcraft 3 and even Fall Guys, once Fall Guys eventually added something like this. Community content is king. And if the team can do it relatively quickly, give players access to this stuff before the game gets, I don't want to say stale, but before a vast majority of the people roll off of it, this could be a game changer and keep Helldivers 2 going for years. I mean, it has that much potential. Anyways, guys, I really want to know, what did you think of my 10? We could have done more. I'm pretty confident of that, but the 10 that we had felt right for right now. They felt good for this point in time. Obviously, there are still things that need to get fixed with the game, but if we look to the future, a month from now, 6 months from now, I think there's going to be a lot of people still playing Helldivers 2, ourselves included. So if you have an idea or you want to expand on anything that I talked about, leave us a comment down below. And as always, if you like our videos, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching. Play on.